What's going on, guys? I want to talk to you about your critic. Critic is someone who has the time and necessity to tell you what you're doing wrong. And I know a lot of us don't know how to deal with that. I know I've had my fair share of critics over the years, and it's been something that I've really struggled with, right? You know, it undermines my confidence. It really creates conflict because you're like trying to figure out why this person doesn't like you, doesn't see what you're doing, or doesn't think you're doing a good job. And the critic could be on the job where you work, could be a colleague, could be a manager. A lot of times it could be a customer or a potential customer. And you feel personally attacked and you feel like you are somewhat powerless. And I know that's a challenge. And like I said, I've dealt with my fair share of critics over the years and have not always dealt with it right. But here's a couple of key strategies that I have deployed that have really made all the difference for me. Number one, I look at what the critic says and I look at who the critic is. I try and figure out where their motivation is for sharing their opinion and whether they feel like, where they become justified, right? In sharing whatever it is that they share. And I look at that from a couple of perspectives because I want to know if this person has some sort of jealousy or has some sort of anxiety, feels that I'm some sort of competitive threat. And when I actually start to peel the onion back a little bit, it often takes away the power that I might have otherwise allowed to build up in my mental, psyche about who that person is and start to decompress the power that their criticism might have on me. So that's number one. Number two, I leverage my critics as my motivation. When people are criticizing you, it actually means that you're doing something right out there in the world. I know that sounds super counterintuitive because, why would they be criticizing you if you were doing something right? Well, just because you're not doing it the way they might think that you should be doing doesn't necessarily mean you're doing it wrong. And so I look at that as a super solid piece of motivation for me. When I get a critic saying, your book was not good, or, you had this typo, or your podcast is, too long or too boring, I just say thank you, right? And I actually internalize their criticism and turn it into motivation, right? Because I'm not going to allow them to take my power away because they're negative thinking about what it is that I do. I don't care. I separate myself, but I turn that into fuel to keep doing what I'm doing, to keep focused, to keep putting one foot in front of the other. And it drives me from my motivation, which is key. And this last thing is, and I know it's the hardest, is I don't take it personal any longer. I look at it as there's this saying that says, good press, bad press, any press is good press, right? I also look at it from, any feedback, any criticism that you have is also a good thing. And I think that you are catching people's attention. You're making them take note of you. You're probably from a, critic's perspective, you're probably some sort of threat to who they are. And that is a positive. That means you're making a difference out there in the world. People are sitting up and taking notice of you, and they're trying to knock you down because you're doing things that they couldn't even think to do. And so I turn that into, my ultimate motivation to keep going forward and allowing myself the freedom to keep creating, keep operating, keep doing whatever it is I'm doing, and allow them to be my biggest drivers. So there's a couple of ideas and thoughts. I would love to hear how you deal with your critics and what you have done in the past. If these strategies help you in any way, shape, or form, or you see any other avenues by which you think that we, could address these critics, I'd love to hear from you. So definitely leave a comment below or shoot me an email, steve@ripplecentral.com. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to know what this video meant to you. And if you find value, definitely like it and subscribe and share it with anybody you think might be struggling with that competitor or that critic. Critic is often the competitor. So anyway, I hope that helps you. As always, ripple on.